do I disagree or agree with Robinson? I agree with Robinson that schools are swaying away from creativity and teaching children to be creativity. For example, I don't even think schools ever really implemented how important improvisation is in music. Um, but to think more generally, besides music, I think that schools spend a lot of their money and any donations given to build maybe another math program or a scientific project or even some sort of literature wing in the building or another group. Um, and I think that when children see that music and other arts are not being valued as much, they're going to take the idea that music and other forms of art are not important, and therefore being creative isn't really important. And if the answer to 2 plus 2 is 4, and that there's no creativity or really mindless intelligence, really just for that, then of course students are not going to really think outside the box. Students are just going to say, hey, you know what, these answers are easy, and I don't really need to think about that art. I don't have to think about creativity. I don't have to think about dancing or anything. Um, Robinson quoted that schools teach students out of creativity and stigmatize mistakes. Um, I do think this is true. Not everyone gets an A on a math test, and not everyone will even get an A in the choir or any rubric. Um, Teachers they teach students not to be creative because, one, it's a lot of work. Um, it's not easy to develop an amazing lesson plan and then have the courage to see if it fails or not or succeeds or not. Um, the thing is, it's a lot easier to just tell the students, you know what, it's 2 plus 2. That's it. It's 4. Or this is Shakespeare. Shakespeare, dissect this, and this is your analysis, and just leave it like that and leave it very blank. Um, I think the whole thing about a lesson plan, especially CPME, involving all types of the learning styles, I think that's extremely pertinent um, to a student's creativity. It affects um, each learning style and each student's then creativity and strong point in every form of learning. Um, do I believe that Brophy has found an appropriate use of an assessment to spark creativity? I think Brophy has come up with some really good ideas, but you're going to have a simple rubric that says pass or fail, and you're going to fail your students. Now, does Brophy come up with an idea to keep testing students that failed to pass? Is there an incentive? Um, or does Brophy just check out a rubric and give a child a C? Because that's the same thing. I mean, if a student has to study for, let's say a student has to study for a dictation, all they're going to do is, do the dictation. Or if a student has to practice for a sight singing test, they're just going to practice what has to be done and not think any other way. I mean, what issues are connected with Robinson's views, and how might assessment impact the issues that Robinson presents? There's a lot of issues with Robinson's views. I mean, Robinson kind of just comes off and saying, oh, let's just kids do whatever they want and, just pray for the best and let them wander and fail and then, eventually they'll succeed. And I think it's definitely the right idea, let kids, fall and then let them realize they scrape their knees and then get up and, see that they passed. But some students don't know better. And I think leaving a rubric or some sort of another assessment to the teacher is crucial, because then there's a sense of unknowing. There could be no sense of conscientization. A teacher has to be there to assess. Someone has to be watching over a student. That's how students realize what's wrong and what's right and what's wrong. Besides stuff like falling off or burning your hand. I mean, those are really instinctual reactions. I don't think anyone can teach anything of that. People realize what's hurting and what's not. But as far as learning, and even you can even gear someone's creativity to think more outside the box, and a rubric could help that. Um, with issues though, I do have concerns with Brophy's thinking because, like I said before, Brophy has an assessment and has a plan on how to pass students or how to fail students or how to grade students. Actually, I shouldn't have said failing. I think that's pretty that's pretty negative, and that's more than what Brophy's saying. I think Brophy's just more looking on the assessment part of it, and I think assessment is crucial. I think you have to assess. You have to assess. You have to assess because students have to realize if they're doing it right. Students have to know that they're doing it right. Students have to know also that they're doing it wrong. Students have to be like, oh wait, I have to think about this. I have to know about this. And I think that something very important that Robinson brought up was Gina Lynn, who I think that was her name, who started dancing, and she even said it herself. I'm so happy to be in a room where people have to think and dance or have to move to think. And the important word there is think. You're still thinking. Whether it's right or wrong, you still have to think. When you're doing like an arabesque or, when you're doing a jazz sweep, you're still thinking. You're still thinking about the next move that's coming up. You're still very conscious if you're doing it right, if your foot lifted. There's a lot of thinking going on. And I think Robinson came off as, let's them think nonsensely and then find out if they're doing it right. And then let them figure it out for themselves. I think students can learn a lot quicker if they knew what was wrong and knew what was right and how to facilitate that.